Hello and welcome to today's video. So this time I'm delighted to be able to show you and review this book here, Sticking It to the Man, Revolution and Counterculture in Pulp and Popular Fiction 1950 to 1980. So if you're into vintage paperbacks like I am, there's an awful lot to love in this book, and it's fantastic. So that is going to be the subject of today's video. So sit back, relax, and let's get to it. Right then, so I am delighted to finally have in my hands a finished copy of Sticking It to the Man. So it's a paperback, a large format trade paperback, edited by Nette and Iain McIntyre. Its full title is Sticking It to the Man, Revolution and Counterculture in Pulp and Popular Fiction 1950 to 1980. You see a fantastic sort of array of different genres and paperbacks on the front cover there. And on the back here, $34.95 is the full cover price on this one. A little bit of the blurb and what's inside. Basically, this is a book, I think it's got about 20 or so contributors, and each contributor has written basically an essay of sorts, an article on one particular aspect which fits in with this sort of overall overriding theme. And there's a real mixture of stuff here, but I think if you're a paperback fan such as I am, and someone who's interested in social history, you're going to absolutely love this. So here is the full list of contributors. Let's sort of zoom in on that bit there. There's probably a few names there that you might recognize if you are versed in the world of literature. And here's the full contents. So what do we have? A total assault on the culture, pulp and popular fiction during the long 60s. That's by the editors. Survivor Mode, the crime fiction of Chester Himes, author I particularly love. Fictions about pulp, gay pulp in the years before Stonewall. To Sir with Love, Race and the Unreal City of the Colonial Imagination. Lesbian pulp novels. Black male characters in Mystery and Crime. Aboriginal Australians, so Australian pulps and popular fiction. Feminine fiction, British novels and radical movements, 65 to 75. Young, hip and angry, pulp fiction and the campus revolt. The Player, Iceberg Slim and the allure of the street. So as you can see, each sort of chapter concentrates on one particular part or aspect within the title, and there's a lot to like here, and it's a really easy book to sort of dip in and out of, which is what I've been doing. I was lucky enough to get a PDF copy about a month ago, so I've been reading that at every chance I've got, and because the articles are short and sweet, you can just dip in and out, and it's like the best sort of magazine, absolutely perfect for that sort of thing. So we will work our way through the book. It is beautifully illustrated. Every single section is illustrated really well. I was so surprised at all the different editions, because I tend to just collect first paperback editions. I'm seeing some of these later printings, particularly the sort of 70s and 80s ones, which is sort of beyond my cut-off point, to be honest. Was fantastic. So really worth looking at. So this is the first piece by the editors, and you'll see as we go along that the book is super well illustrated. There's one I've already seen, because as we go through this you'll see books, I've got to get myself a copy of that. I'm a big fan of the Panther Crime Band, and I'm trying to put together a run of that particular publisher's short-lived Crime Band series. And Chester Himes, another author who I really like, I've got a lot of his American and British paperback first editions, but I've not got that one, so because it probably wasn't the British first. So it just gives you an idea of stuff to find down the line. So this is the first chapter, which is the one on Chester Himes. It's really, really good. I spot it, as you go through the book, you'll do like I did. Oh, I've got that one. And you won't be able to help yourself, but there's some good research in here as well, and not just on the books themselves, but actually on the authors and how the books got published and when they got published. Lots of differences between the British, American, sometimes Australian printings of books as well. Certain countries were more ahead of others, but as you can see, this is a really good opening section, and I thoroughly enjoyed the Chester Himes one. That's by Scott Alderberg. Fantastic, that one. So this is Gay Pulp in the years before Stonewall. So this is having a look at some of those books. All the publishers dipped their toe in the water, some more than others, and they go back quite some way. To Sir with Love, Race and the Unreal City of the Colonial Imagination. Interesting, that one actually has the hardback there as well. So this is onto the sort of the lesbian novels, which were very popular, became very popular in the late 50s, early 60s. Anne Bannon was one of the most popular of those authors. This is one of her gold medal ones. Highly collectible nowadays, of course, as a subgenre of paperbacks. As you can see, these articles really are in depth. There's nothing being skirted over here. This is a real proper study of each subject, and that's what makes this book a real keeper. Unlike perhaps just a magazine article where they can't perhaps do this justice, this really does dive deep, and that's what makes this so good. Once again, there's a clear example of this is a City of Night, and 3 different editions of the same book there on the same page. And that's another thing that I really like about this book, is the different editions. This is The Cool, the Square and the Tough, Archetypes of Black Male Characters in Mystery and Crime Novels. It's a nice power one there. I definitely got that one. There's I Spy. It's a little known series these days, but that's a very young Bill Cosby on the front there. Another one there. So TV tie-ins, of course. Resilience and Representation. Representations of Aboriginal Australians in pulp and popular fiction. So that's quite a scarce one there. So this is a penguin, an Australian penguin, and that particular imprint was the normal penguin logo, but with the boomerangs on top of the penguin there. I think you can just about make that out, but that's how you can spot an Australian penguin. They didn't do that many of them, but they're all pretty scarce over here in the UK. Peacock there. That was the penguin's sort of teenage imprint. This is a review of just the one book, Black Lightning. Fermenting Fiction, British Novels and Radical Movements, 65 to 75. Looking at the Alan Sillitoe books. Some more later penguins, mid-70s ones. Betty Collins and the Australian industrial novel. Don't know a lot about the Australian paperback scene, I have to say. I know it was there, and they had their pulps as well. But it's not an area I know a lot about. I know there's some early Australian and New Zealand penguins, sort of just post Second World War, which are very tough to find these days, but I've got a couple of them. Young, Hip and Angry, Pulp Fiction and Campus Revolt. So another very, very niche subject area. But once again, it had their books. There's a really nice early New English library from 1970 demo. Never seen that one before. I do love the New English library stuff. And then there's more in a similar vein there. The Player, Iceberg Slim and the Allure of the Street. These are very scarce these days. I don't think I've got. I might have one or two Iceberg Slim books, but they're scarce. You just don't seem to come across them. This was another really interesting chapter, along with the Chester Himes one. I really got a lot out of this one. Told me a lot of stuff that I didn't know. Canadian Carnage. So this is under the sort of subheading of men's adventure titles, which is a huge genre, and one which is having, I believe, a bit of a renaissance. A lot of these titles are coming back into fashion again, and some of the authors are as well. There is a particularly good Facebook group which got over 5,000 members now. They're called Men's Adventure Paperbacks. Well worth checking that one out. What's this? Cold Fire Burning, Nathan Hurd interviews. So this is actually an interview within the book. I must say, it's a really lavish sort of publication, this. They've not skimped on the production of this. I mean, I know it's $35, but I mean, I'd almost be tempted to pay an extra $5 or $10 and get this in a hardback edition, which would have been even more fantastic. But I guess, you know, publishers know their business, and for $35, considering everything is in colour and there's a lot here to get your teeth stuck into, yeah, I think it is great value for money. Blowback, late 60s and 70s pulp and popular fiction about the Vietnam War, another subject which interests me quite a lot. There was a lot here which I was and you'll probably do exactly the same as me. As you've been going through it, you start making little lists of titles that you want to get, and there was a few in here that I thought, oh, that sounds fantastic, I've got to look at that. Perhaps not the greatest of covers, but it's a genre which I do sort of quite like. So I've made a little short list of books because once again, these are rapidly approaching 50 plus years old now, and you know, trying to find nice copies is going to become quite difficult. So perhaps the time to get some of these 70s books is now, really. A Black Sinclair Lewis, the novels of Robert Dean Farr. That's not one I've read yet. I've probably read about 2/3 of the book right through now. I'm trying to read bits and pieces as I go along, but not spoil it too much. Adolescent homosexuality. This chapter here. Sons of Darkness, Sons of Light, John A. Williams. It's a nice Penguin edition there. The Yippie Literatis. So some of the sort of hippies and late 60s titles here, by the look of it. Yep, psychedelic sex. Sort of the drug-related ones. So LSD and dope and what have you around that sort of time. Anything from that sort of period tends to be good value for money these days, and is sought after. That's for certain. Early true crime book there on Charles Manson. Gay adult pulp of the 1970s. So again, lots of information, and there's loads more titles listed within the actual text here. As I said, if there are books that you want to get your hands on, this is the way to do it. Emotions doesn't change facts, remembering Joseph Hansen. This is another one I've not read yet. Black is Beautiful, the Super Spade novels of Joseph Perkins Green. Once again, this examines that entire series. That's by J. Kingston Pierce. What Men Fear, an interview with M.F. Beale. This was an excellent section. It's on the Shaft series by Ernest Tidyman. And these obviously became very popular on the back of the movie. But there were several Shaft books and they went on quite some time. This one just looks at that first one. There is Ernest Tidyman. And he got the Oscar there for the screenplay of The French Connection, which he also wrote. Another great book. Here's some different editions of Shaft. So this is the Bantam 1971 edition. That's the British Corgi 1972 edition. And there's another Bantam edition from 1971 as well, all variations on a theme. And some of the later ones, Shaft Among the Jews, British and American editions. Shaft's Big Score, once again, British and American, using images from the movie. Goodbye, Mr. Shaft. I think that's the original hardback, and then the paperback, the British Corgi paperback. Kind of like it, Last Shaft, another British Corgi one. So fantastic section on Tidyman there. Pulp Feminism. These are all New English Library books, all well worth tracking down if you can find copies, but some of these are very scarce. They were sort of churned out on a very, very swift basis by the New England Library stable of writers, and they, they're not the greatest of quality, but they do fit the genre, but quite tough to track some of these down now, for sure. Brilliant all the same, particularly when you start getting a collection of them together. They do look really, really good. Well over 200 pages into the book now. City on the Brink, Wallace Ferris's Across 110th. There's obviously the famous movie Across 110th Street. Yaphet Kotto, I believe, is in that one. A real famous movie. The Radical, Civil Rights. The Last Refuge. This is just looking at the one novel again. Pulp Fiction and the Little Red School Book. The Brief Life of Gold Star Publications. So this is looking at the actual publisher, the Gold Star publisher. That's a really nice wraparound. Just some of this stuff is so obscure, you just don't really see it. A lot of it I've never ever seen before, and it's fantastic to be able to have it all in one place, because there's some real rarities here. And there's even however much of a paperback collector you are, no one's got it all, and that's why it's such a great subject to collect, because it always opens your eyes to new things that you might fancy reading. These I very much love, which is the Dirty Harry books, and apart from the movie adaptations, of course, they went on and had a whole later series of books. I think there was at least 12 or so in the Dirty Harry series. And then we've got the Death Wish in a similar sort of vein. And the first Rambo book, First Blood by David Morrell. Another absolute classic, well worth picking up if you come across a copy of that one. Lone Wolves, this is the Vigilante novels of Barry N. Malsberg. I've not read any of these actually, so I don't think I've ever come across these, but this is a whole little series examined in detail. Ruby Fruit Jungle, Rita Mae Brown. Once again examining just the one novel there. Incident at La Junta, another one. Get Radcliffe, so another little mini series. US one, this Holloway House in the mid-70s. No Ordinary Joe, Jonah Hill and the Pursuit of Black History. This is a Black Gestapo, look at that one. The Iceman. Another particular genre. And the Black Samurai books by Mark Holden. The Jones Men. Vern E. Smith. As you can see, you may not be into every single article in here or every single book, but I bet you if you do delve into something you think you may not enjoy, quite possibly you are going to. And that's what I've been finding. And there's so many things that you just didn't even realize existed until they were brought to the attention in this book. And that's why I love it so much, because it's opened my eyes to even more things to collect. And that's what I love. I love tracking down books and reading and hearing about things that I never would have known before. This is another one looking at Alice Walker, author of The Colour Purple, of course. Quite near the end now, but we're almost at 300 pages. So this is by no means a short tome, and well worth your money, because I do believe this is good value. Love Bombers. I think we are nearing the end now. As you can see, beautifully illustrated. Then you got your page of acknowledgements. So a book such as this, you can imagine all the permissions and copyrights and things like that need clearance. So a huge job. This is a little mini biography of all the different contributors, of which there are many. There's well over 20 people have contributed to make this book what it is. And then a very handy index. So if there is something you couldn't quite remember, or a title or author, this is the way to get him. Then at the back of the book, rather handily, you do have a little sort of mini catalogue of PM Press, who are the publishers. Some of what they do. So they are a small publisher and they do appreciate your help. So you can become a friend of PM Press, and at different levels, a bit like a Patreon, and that will get you different benefits. This is some of their other publications of interest. So this one came out last year, which was Girl Gangs, Biker Boys and Real Cool Cats, Pulp Fiction and Youth Culture, 1950 to 1980. Very, very similar to this book in actual fact, but looking at a slightly different subject. On the Fly, Hobo Literature and Songs, Iain McIntyre, once again one of the editors. Here we are. So as you can see, some of their other books in the line are mentioned at the back, and you can go directly to the website to order these and become a supporter as well. But there you go, what an incredible tome. And I think if you, like me, are into vintage paperbacks, there's an awful lot there to get your teeth stuck into. So there you go, I hope you enjoyed this little look at Sticking It to the Man. If you do want to grab yourself a copy, I've put a direct link in the description down below, and it will take you straight to Amazon. You can get your own copy, and I'm sure you're going to love it as much as I did. Thanks once again for watching. I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.